Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your trusted source for everything rare, valuable, and mysterious about the world of stamps. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating topics in the stamp collecting universe, the current market value of old and rare stamps in today's dollar. If you're holding onto a vintage stamp, like the classic United States 2-cent green Washington stamp, you might be surprised at what it's truly worth. This isn't just a small piece of paper, this is history preserved in ink and fiber, and in some cases, these tiny treasures are now worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The stamp market is experiencing a remarkable resurgence as collectors and investors alike are recognizing the long-term value and historical significance of rare philatelic pieces. Let's start by looking at the green 2-cent George Washington stamp, one of the most iconic stamps in American postal history. This stamp, originally issued in the late 19th and early 20th century, was once common in households across America. But today, depending on its condition, postmark, printing error, and edition year, its value can range dramatically. A standard used copy might be worth just a few dollars, but a mint-condition version, especially one with an error like a misprint or missing perforations, could be valued at several hundred or even thousands of dollars on the auction market. For example, a rare variation of the 2-cent Washington from the 1908 issue with inverted centers has fetched prices exceeding $10,000 in elite philatelic auctions. That's the power of detail in the stamp world. Minor variations can mean major profits. In today's collector's market, stamp values are influenced by several critical factors. Condition is king. A stamp with strong color, perfect centering, clean perforations, and no hinge marks or damage will always command a higher price. Rarity is the second biggest factor. The fewer known copies exist, the higher the demand. Provenance, or the history of the stamp's ownership and documentation, can also increase its desirability. And let's not forget errors. These unexpected flaws in the printing or production process are like winning the lottery for collectors. Whether it's a misprint, a wrong color, or an inverted image, these anomalies are the darlings of the auction world, often making headlines and selling for tens of thousands of dollars. Now, let's look at the stamp market trends for 2025. According to current stamp catalogs and expert pricing guides, we are seeing a noticeable spike in value for early American stamps, British colonial issues, and wartime airmail stamps. Inflation, renewed collector interest, and an aging supply are pushing prices upward. For instance, the British penny black, the world's first postage stamp, continues to command premium values, with fine examples exceeding $5,000 depending on the plate number and margins. Meanwhile, U.S. classics from the 1800s, like the Benjamin Franklin or George Washington issues, are climbing steadily in value, with auction houses reporting record sales month after month. But here's what makes this market truly exciting: ordinary people are discovering rare stamps tucked away in family albums, old drawers, and vintage correspondence. Every day, new stories emerge of someone uncovering a forgotten stamp collection and discovering its immense value. This could be you. That stamp sitting in your attic might be a fortune waiting to be discovered. And that's why on Stamps Old World UK, we encourage everyone to learn, research, and re-examine their old stamp collections. A simple piece of mail from a great-grandparent could contain a philatelic treasure worth more than gold. If you're interested in selling or evaluating your stamps, make sure to consult up-to-date stamp catalogs such as the Scott Catalog, Stanley Gibbons, or online tools like eBay sold listings, Heritage Auctions, or Delcamp. Be wary of quick buyers and unverified online estimates. Always get multiple opinions and, if possible, contact a certified stamp appraiser or philatelic expert. You can even attend local stamp shows or join clubs where experienced collectors can help verify your finds. Remember, knowledge is the most valuable stamp in your album. As we wrap up this deep dive into the modern value of old stamps, remember that collecting is more than a hobby. It's a gateway into history, art, culture, and investment. Whether you're new to the world of philately or a lifelong collector, there's always more to discover and learn. And here at Stamps Old World UK, we'll continue to bring you expert insights, hidden stories, and the latest market trends so you never miss a valuable opportunity hiding in plain sight. Next up, the 2-cent Warren G. Harding stamp, first issued in 1923. This small black and white postage stamp might look modest at first glance, but what it represents and how it is valued today may completely surprise you. Whether you're a passionate philatelist, a family historian, or someone who's inherited a box of old envelopes, this video might just change how you view this unassuming yet powerful little piece of the past. The 2-cent Harding stamp was issued shortly after the death of President Warren G. Harding, who passed away unexpectedly in August of 1923. In an era without social media, without breaking news alerts or global communication platforms, the postage stamp served as a national tribute. The stamp features a somber profile portrait of Harding, framed with elegant engraving and the years 1865 and 1923, marking his birth and death. It was a memorial in motion, placed on millions of letters across the country as the nation mourned the loss of its 29th president. But in today's world, that same stamp is not just a historical artifact, it's a collector's item with hidden value, especially if you own a rare variation, mint-condition copy, or an error print. So, how much is the Harding Memorial stamp worth in today's stamp market? That's where things get very interesting. A standard, postmarked 2-cent Harding stamp in average condition might sell for as little as $1 to $3. However, the value can rise significantly depending on a few key factors: the presence of printing errors, the type of perforation, the gumming on the back, and whether it was flat plate printed or rotary press printed. One of the most sought-after versions is the rotary press coil version, which was produced in limited quantities. Examples of these stamps have sold for hundreds of dollars in top-tier auctions. But that's just the beginning. Let's talk about the holy grail of this stamp series, the 2-cent Harding Black Harding error stamp printed on card stock with imperforate edges. Only a few of these exist, and when authenticated by professional graders, they can command astonishing prices. One such example, perfectly preserved and documented, sold for over $1,500 in a collector's event. Imagine, a 2-cent stamp fetching more than $1,000. That's the world of philately, where history, rarity, and condition converge to create real monetary value from what was once a tool of everyday communication. But even if your Harding stamp isn't a rare variety, it still holds historical and collector value. As more people enter the stamp collecting hobby in 2025, fueled by online marketplaces, digital guides, and growing interest in alternative investments, classic U.S. stamps like this one are experiencing a resurgence. Auction houses and collectors are paying more attention than ever to presidential issues, mourning stamps, and early 20th century U.S. postal designs. The Harding stamp stands out not only because of its age but because of what it represents: a national moment of grief turned into a public symbol of remembrance. And here's what makes all this even more exciting: stamps like these are still turning up in forgotten photo albums, old journals, and inherited boxes of family letters. People across the world are discovering that the very stamp they almost threw away could be a key to hidden value. If you happen to have a collection, or even just one Harding stamp, do not dismiss it. Start by examining it closely. Look at the corners: are they sharp or bent? Is the image centered or slightly off? Are there perforation errors or smudges that could indicate a rare misprint? Is the back gummed or marked? All of these small details can drastically affect its value. Now let's talk a little about how to verify your stamp's value. You'll want to refer to reliable sources like the Scott Catalog or Stanley Gibbons Guide for year, type, and pricing. For more up-to-date and real-world market values, websites like eBay Sold Listings, Hipstamp, Delcamp, and Heritage Auctions are excellent for comparing prices of similar listings. Always remember, however, that condition is king. A stamp that is slightly bent, faded, or heavily postmarked will be worth far less than a crisp, mint, unhinged version. You might also consider getting your Harding stamp professionally graded and certified, especially if you suspect it is a rare variant. There are professional grading services for stamps that will examine your item for authenticity, issue a certificate of grading, and provide paperwork that increases buyer trust, and often the final sale price. Certification can be especially important if you're planning to sell your stamp at auction or to a serious collector. At Stamps Old World UK, we believe that stamp collecting is more than a hobby: it's an investment in culture, legacy, and discovery. The Harding stamp isn't just a postal issue. It's a piece of American history that tells the story of a president's passing, a country's mourning, and the power of memory in physical form. It reminds us of the days when communication traveled with care and meaning, when letters were sacred, and when stamps were miniature masterpieces. Every time you hold a stamp like this, you're not just touching paper, you're holding a moment in time. So whether you have one Harding stamp or an entire collection of classic U.S. postage, take time to research, preserve, and explore. The world of stamps is filled with surprises, and some of the most valuable treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight. That's the magic we celebrate here on Stamps Old World UK, where every video is an invitation to uncover something extraordinary. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss our updates on rare stamps, market trends, collector tips, and hidden postal history. Share this video with your friends and family, especially those who might have old letters or forgotten albums at home. You never know, the next rare stamp story might be yours. Next up, the 2-cent red George Washington stamp. To many people, it may appear as just another old stamp tucked away in a forgotten drawer, pasted to a letter in an antique album, or hidden among a pile of dusty envelopes. But in reality, this red 2-cent stamp, featuring the unmistakable profile of America's founding father, George Washington, is one of the most iconic and collectible stamps in U.S. history. And for those who know how to look, it could be worth far more than you'd expect, not just in dollars, but in historical importance, collector prestige, and emotional connection to the past. The 2-cent red Washington stamp, also referred to by collectors as the Washington Shield stamp, was issued primarily in the early 20th century. Most commonly, it's associated with issues from around 1894 to 1920. These stamps were printed by the Bureau of Engraving and Printing and were often used for everyday correspondence during a period of incredible national growth in the United States. When people mailed letters coast to coast, this was often the stamp that carried their messages, whether a business agreement, a love letter, or a soldier's words from the front lines. But while this stamp was once produced in the millions, time has thinned the population of quality examples. Today, pristine versions, rare errors, or hard-to-find printings are being sold for impressive sums at auction houses around the world. Let's talk about what gives this stamp its enduring power in the collector's market. First and foremost is the design. It features a commanding portrait of George Washington at the center, surrounded by a finely detailed border that includes laurels, a pair of American flags, and the inscriptions, United States of America, and postage 2 cents. The bold red or carmine coloration makes it stand out among other stamps of its time, and variations in shade, printing method, and perforation type are what give this stamp its wide range in market value today. Some versions are extremely common and worth very little, especially if they are heavily postmarked or damaged. But others, particularly mint condition examples, or those with printing errors, double impressions, or rare coils, can command values in the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's take a closer look at how collectors assign value to this red Washington stamp. A standard use stamp, lightly canceled, might be worth just $1 or $2 if it's from a common printing year. But condition matters more than you might think. A stamp that's centered perfectly, with sharp perforations, no hinge marks, and original gum, can fetch 10 to 20 times more. Now, if you have a rare variation, such as the horizontal coil pair, or a stamp printed on bluish paper, which was only tested briefly in 1909, then you're stepping into elite collector territory. These rare versions have sold for upwards of $2,000 to $5,000 depending on condition and authentication. And let's not forget the true unicorns, error stamps with inverted prints or misperforations. These are so rare that when one appears at auction, it often becomes headline news in the philatelic world. Now, some might wonder, how can something so small carry so much value? The answer lies in the history. This stamp is more than just a postage label, it's a reflection of national identity, technological progress, and global communication. The red 2-cent Washington stamp is symbolic of the early American spirit. It reminds us of a time before smartphones and email, when every envelope sent was a personal connection, and every letter had to earn its way through wind, rain, trains, and ships. George Washington, as the nation's first president, was the perfect emblem to carry those words. That historical legacy has only grown in the minds of collectors, scholars, and auctioneers who now see these stamps not only as collectibles, but as investments in cultural preservation. If you've recently inherited an old album or discovered a batch of stamps in your attic, this is the time to start examining what you have. Even if you spot a red 2-cent Washington stamp and think it's too common to be valuable, take a second look. Are the edges perfect? Is the stamp off-center, or is it a flawless design? Is there anything unusual about the print, like a faint doubling, a missing detail, or reverse text? These seemingly small details are exactly what make a difference in valuation. A common stamp can instantly become a rare treasure if it contains even the slightest manufacturing anomaly or if it's part of a limited print run. The modern market for classic U.S. stamps is stronger than ever. In 2025, stamp auctions across the UK, Europe, and America are showing increased demand for well-preserved early 20th century issues. Collectors are not just chasing one-of-a-kind rarities, they're buying clean, historical pieces to build personal portfolios. In fact, stamps are now considered by some financial experts to be a category of passion investments, alongside rare coins, vintage watches, and art. The red Washington stamp fits right into that category, an affordable gateway for beginners, but with enough depth and complexity to satisfy even the most experienced collectors. So how should you go about verifying and possibly selling your red 2-cent Washington stamp? Begin by identifying the exact type. Use reliable guides such as the Scott Specialized Catalog of United States Stamps or Stanley Gibbons reference books. Look closely at things like watermark type, paper texture, printing method, and perforation count. Then, if you believe you have something truly special, especially if your stamp isn't used or has an error, it's well worth sending it to a professional grading service or showing it to a reputable philatelic dealer. A certificate of authenticity and professional valuation can significantly increase its resale potential. Here on Stamps Old World UK, we believe every collector, whether new or experienced, should be empowered with the knowledge to understand what they hold. This hobby is about more than monetary value. It's about connecting with the past, preserving artistry, and discovering personal stories that stretch across time and borders. The red Washington stamp isn't just a piece of old paper, it's a survivor of an era, a messenger from history, and a potential treasure hiding in plain sight. Thank you for watching today's deep dive into the 2-cent red George Washington stamp. If you found this video informative or inspiring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another episode. Share this video with anyone who owns a stamp album, has an interest in collectibles, or is curious about what lies behind the simple face of a postage stamp. You never know, the stamp that looks ordinary might just be worth a fortune. This is Stamps Old World UK, where we say, history is hidden in the smallest corners, and sometimes, the tiniest stamps hold the biggest surprises. See you in the next video.